from Lightmap, I'm going to demo for you the new connection between Octane Standalone and HDR Light Studio. So we've got a scene here and it's ready to light. We've got the model and it's all got its shaders and everything on, we just don't have any lighting. So if I go to Windows, HDR Light Studio has been installed and we can see there's a new entry called HDR Light Studio Connection. Let's select this and the panel opens, and I'll just drag and I'll dock this in the interface up here. It's a very simple connection with very few buttons really, so we'll just press the start button and get started. This opens HDR Light Studio, and HDR Light Studio will detect that there's a texture environment in the scene, and then it will connect directly with that, and it will replace the HDR content that is on there with content from HDR Light Studio, and then that will be lighting the shot. So if I make a change in HDR Light Studio, say to the brightness here, you can see that updates really quick inside of Octane. Also in the Octane scene, there's a node being created called HDR Light Studio Project Data. Everything we create inside of HDR Light Studio, all the lighting, is stored inside of the Octane scene. So once we've done our lighting, if we wanted to edit it and make changes in the future, when we next start HDR Light Studio, it will reload that lighting and we can carry on where we left off. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to press this play button inside of the HDR Light Studio interface. This will display Octane's render directly inside of HDR Light Studio. There we go. Now what's great about this is now it's in our interface, we can drag and drop lights onto the model and position them by interacting with this view. So what I'm going to do now is fill the display, maximize that, just organize my layout here. Okay, so we're ready to put down a light. So let's just drag and drop this onto the view here. And you can see that where it was dropped, the light has been added to the HDRI map in that position. If I was to click with this light active, you can see it's selected here. In a different position on the model, you can see the light moves to reflect in that position. And this is because the light paint mode here is in reflection mode. If I change this to rim, it will place the light directly behind. So where I click on the HDRI map that's visible in the background is where the light will go. And this can create a rim lighting effect. But I'm going to change this back to reflection. Click on here to move that light and just scale that up. Okay, I'm going to duplicate the light and put one around the other side. And then make a couple of soft round lights. And then finally I'm going to make a soft round light and put it behind the model and scale that down a bit to give the model a bit of a glow behind it. There we go. So you can see how quick and easy it is to start to light this model. Every change you make to this HDRI map is updated straight away back inside of Octane through this live connection. And as I was showing, when we click on the model, what is actually happening is the position on this image is sent back to Octane Standalone. The position and everything is queried inside our connection, which calculates where to place the light to reflect properly. And then that information gets sent back to HDR Light Studio, all in an instant basically. Okay, so far all of the lighting is coming from the HDRI map. In the Octane connection, we also support area lights. So if I click here and enable this light as an area light, in the view, not that much changes. You wouldn't really realize we've just made an area light. But what has happened is that this light has been removed from the HDRI map that is being shared with Octane Standalone, and we've actually built an emitter mapped with this content. This RGBA content has been mapped inside. So if I move that out of the way and we just look here, you can see now there's a HDR Light Studio Area Lights section inside Octane Standalone, and all of the stuff we make to make those area lights gets added in there, just so you know. So if I go back to HDR Light Studio, it was not apparent that it was an area light because when we first make them, we put them a long way away from the scene. We make them at a long distance away. But if I now get this handle and drag this closer and closer, you can see that it's actually moving. Now another thing is, there we go, so you can actually see that there. Now I had to get down to really quite low values to get this light into the view. So what we're going to do is change the scale of this slider. So if we go up here and go Edit Preferences, and we have Smart Dolly Scaler, I'm going to put that down to 0.1 and OK that. Now the lights move much closer, but it means that as I use this slider now, I get better control over that distance of that light. And in fact, for this scene, I could easily change that distance to 0.01 as a scale. And then I get a fantastic amount of control of the lights when they're close to the model. So controlling area lights is exactly the same as controlling a light that's on the HDRI map. Wherever I click, the light is moved. And if I solo this light, you can see that that light is providing localized lighting effects. So this is why I made the watch blue, so you could see this rather than metal. So you can see as I increase the brightness of that light, it's illuminating, you know, locally. Now, if a light is on the HDRI map, the HDRI map is a very long way away and the entire model can see that light. And I can demonstrate this here because any light you make as an area light, if you change your mind and you want that back on the HDR, you just uncheck the checkbox and that light will return to the HDRI map. So this is what has happened here. This light is a long way away and the whole watch can see that light. If I turn it back into an area light and it gets closer, it will only light this region. If I use Smart Dolly and move it further away, more and more of the model can start to see that light and more of the model will get brighter. So area lights really useful for kind of local lighting effects. So I can easily duplicate an area light, click over here, put one there, duplicate, click over there, put one there. Now if you want Smart Dolly, scales the light. So if you bring it twice as close, it scales it so that the brightness level it illuminates is the same. The reason we do this is if you kept the light the same size, so when it's a long way away, the light needs to be very large. If you brought that large light closer, it would blow out the scene and it would be too bright. So Smart Dolly scales the light so that it gives out a consistent amount of illumination whatever distance away it is. But if you decided you wanted the light at this exact size but to move it slightly further away, this is the dolly multiplier slider. So if you use that, that will just start to nudge the light away, but it won't affect its size. That's what that's for. So it's like a fine adjustment for the distance of the light. And if you double click on the name, it will go back to its default setting of 1. So it's not the most beautiful lighting, but let's say we were happy with this lighting. So I'm going to unsolo all that. Just kind of leave this whole mix of lighting as we've got it. So we've basically got one HDR that's got all these lights on, apart from these 3 area lights, which are 3-dimensional lights in space inside of Octane Standalone. So at the end of a project, if I was to just go back to Octane and press stop, all of those lights get updated to use a stand-in blue logo for HDR Light Studio. Now the reason for this is, as you are actually lighting using HDR Light Studio, we're sharing low resolution images with Octane. They're not the final subsampled images of the lights and the lighting. We do this so everything's nice and fast. So what we need to do is press start and open HDR Light Studio again. Because the project data is embedded inside of Octane, HDR Light Studio has loaded those lights back in again. And I'll just press the play button to see the view again in here. So you can see that they look the same. So what we need to do to finish the lighting process so that we're not using the low resolution proxy images that are shared with Octane is press the HDR button to render the production renders of all of this content. So if I press that button now, we can choose the resolution for the HDRI map, which I'm going to make 3K. And then we can choose the resolution for the area lights, which I'm going to make 4K, so 4000. So I'm going to just browse to the desktop and just call this Octane demo. Save. And then when we press render, all of this content, the HDRI map, that's the composite of all these lights, and those 3 area lights will now be rendered at high resolution and high quality with the subsampling. That's great. So now that's completed, we can go back to Octane and we can press stop. And we can see in this scene here, if we go to texture environment, into the texture, we can see that the scene is now using the desktop file Octane demo that we just rendered. And all of those light sources are now using that final high quality content. And this scene can just simply render now the final shot at a high quality, knowing that it's using the highest quality lighting ingredients. So that's how to use the new Octane standalone connection with HDR Light Studio. It's been really great showing it to you, and we're really looking forward to see what our customers can do with it. So thank you for watching. Bye bye.